Like, you know what I'm saying? Like how we're if you I heard something by 50 Cent, right? He
Yeah.
said, "You never see rich people fighting." Like, you know, so when you see the fights in the clubs or you'll see somebody on the street arguing, you know, so somebody
Yeah.
when it comes down to blows, right? It's like rich people don't have to do that because they're already satisfied within themselves, you know. And like it's like where you don't see a lot of, you know, it's like where you've heard the saying half hood, half holy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like how where some people they think that it's just pushovers, you know what I'm saying? You're just gonna treat the people of God however you want. No, you're not gonna do that, you know what I'm saying? But like how where it's like you ever seen a person that's, you know what I'm saying, really like I'd say really committed, deep church going person,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? But you push them and antagonize them, right? And then all of a sudden they snap out on you because the person that's pushing them is in the wrong.
Yeah.
And they say, well, that's not godly. Well, it wasn't godly for you to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like hard to
Wow, bro.
say
You
for
know
real.
what? Okay, so this is getting so interesting because we could go so many routes. I wanted to ask you about different things too, but so speaking of that, like I think when I was up in Duluth and we were coming back from one of our choir trips, and this brother asked, and he told me straight up, he was like, you know what? To be a Christian, don't you think that Christian people are really gullible and they don't like they get um
Taking advantage of.
yeah, and
uh,
I'm like, so to me, how I see that question is nothing against that brother, but
mm-hmm.
he still isn't fully aware of what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
Because yes, as a Christian, we all know
Mm-hmm.
that that's yes, we know that, but we do it anyways, you know? It's not like we don't know and we're like, okay, that's the difference, you know? So to what I respond to that brother was like, you know what, being a Christian is not about being taken advantage of. It's known that you maybe you might be taken advantage, but you still have, you already know that that's an underlying issue, and you're still going to do it anyways, you know. And so it's not really what he's asking me, it's what the Christian already knows, and they're willing to do that and know that God is there seeing through them throughout all that. And so that's another test of faith. Whether
Exactly.
and so that person that's asked, that brother's asking me, that person is only seeing that much of the picture, you know?
Yeah. With
Yeah.
with that, I say so. Like, for example, you know, what do
So
go
my
ahead.
thing is that what you're saying is that, you know what, I'm gonna be nice to you, and God, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna help you as much as I want to. But when you start pushing me, God is gonna be like, bro, don't hang out with that guy anymore. And if you
Ex-
still do, that's on you. You got to
you know,
realize that too, though. You know, like
yeah,
if you keep helping somebody and they keep pushing you away, and you keep going back to them, at the end of the day, God's gonna be like, no, get off, and God's gonna show you signs.
yeah,
And if you keep going, God's gonna be like, that's on you. You know,
exactly. You chose that path,
yeah.
like,
So yeah, you could. God, He knows exactly what you need. He's not gonna take you into something that it's not gonna be number one. Um, he's going to look out for your best interest, you know? And
yeah,
so if you keep doing it after a while, you're so what I'm trying to say is don't be afraid if you're going to be taken advantage of, because we're serving a great God and he will steer you away from that. And that's part of being faithful too. So when you come back and you say, "Oh, you know what? Christians are really gullible." No, you know what? You're only seeing that, you're still minute in what your way of thinking. You don't see the bigger picture yet. That's how the normal person off the street thinks, you know. I'm being taken advantage of, I don't want to. But you haven't seen the light. The light is that I'm doing it anyways because somebody else is telling me to do it. And if I get taken advantage of, that's not my issue to deal with. That's, they got to see it, they got to take it up with him, you
exactly.
know. And so a lot of people, they don't realize this, bro. They just see this little small integral part of their life, and they still have a lot of growth in getting into the word and getting, you know, trying to follow what Jesus is teaching. Once you get that and you get the revelations of what this is all about, you start seeing those stuff. And for me, I never really saw that too. And I used to think that way. But when I started my walk and the people around me, I started getting wiser in that sense because my chaplain up in Duluth, Nick, I remember he prayed for me and he asked for wisdom for me.
Mm.
And so I really feel like that's, don't pray for a new car, bro. Go pray for something more
Yeah,
valuable than that.
exactly.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to say, if you are still looking at the smaller picture, you don't know understand what God has for you yet, you know.
Exactly.
And so now that just put into my frame of thinking, like, push a guy once or twice, and if he keeps helping you, like he's still a God. No, eventually he's gonna stop. Eventually God's gonna say, don't stop,
Yeah, God, because God will tell you to leave people
yeah.
alone. He'll be like, look, leave that person alone.
So even if you don't want to leave that person alone, God's going to take you away from that person because God knows what's right in your life. And that's going back to having faith in God, number one, and if you don't never had faith, you would not even realize that, and so you gotta ask yourself, do I even believe in God? Do I even have faith if I keep thinking I'm going to get taken advantage of? No, because
Exactly.
you're still looking for out for yourself. So you get
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yep. That's like
Yeah.
that human side. Cause like
Right.
when I get some, it's like where it's like I'd be like, whatever they do with it is what they do with it. You know what I mean? Like how where I don't think that it's that's kind of like a mindset. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like when someone thinks like, oh, Christians get taken advantage of. No, it just shows that Christians are good people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, cause like to be honest, bro, like so this is the first time I think that I've ever. I'm sure it's the first time I've ever said it on camera, but
Yeah.
the first time that I've
Oh,
like addressed it, right?
yeah.
So like to be honest with you, I don't even know if I'm a Christian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if I qualify as what the Christian label is.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a follower of Yahshua.
Yeah.
I'm a follower of what God's word says. I'm a follower of his teachings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like so like cause like when the world comes to labels, right?
Right.
Everybody puts these labels on things. Like cause so like how we're so I was you know what I'm saying? Like people like some people that like they see me go to the mosque and they're like, wait, aren't you Muslim? Aren't you Christian?
Right.
They'll
Right.
see me
Right.
go meditate. What are you now? Well, you know what I'm saying? So like to be honest, bro, I don't ever put a label on myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like where, cause I like where I heard Christian came from was like little Christ.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, if I'm little Jesus, hey, Jesus the big homie, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
So like how we're whenever people like, oh, like a person is a type of label or like I don't know, I guess for me, I just I always assume that I'm gonna be judged anyways, or that
Yeah.
people already do it, whether knowingly or unknowingly, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, y'all call me what you want. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at how I live, you're like, oh, that's Jesus right there.
Yeah.
That's what I like on the see. So like, or
Yeah.
because I don't know if the humans will qualify me as because like how where it's like, oh well, he might vape. Oh well, he's an enthusiasm for weed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or what I'm saying? Like me, don't know, I don't do drugs no more. But I feel like where what I'm saying, some things like we don't say nothing to the person eating 300 cheeseburgers a day, but we mad at the kid smoking the well, not the kid, but you know what I'm saying, a younger person smoking a joint. Let's say you're in your 20s, you're in your
Yeah.
30s, they still call me a kid, bro. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
got the baby face, I don't got the
Yeah. You
beard.
do.
You know what I'm
What are you,
saying? So,
18?
I know, right?
Oh,
Yeah. I'm
yeah.
32.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like
still young.
exactly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like how we're for me, I guess I never really put the labels on myself because I don't know if the people that have those labels, if they would
Yeah.
accept me for being me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Or they're like how where I say like, oh, not black enough for the black kids,
Right.
you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because you can't do that. I'm like, wait, I can't what?
Yeah.
I never understood that. When somebody tells me I can't do something, me, I always want to know why. If
Yeah.
it's a legit reason why behind why I can't do it, I accept it. Cool. I'm good, right?
So are you okay with people calling you a Christian then?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Like, you
Okay.
know what I'm saying? Like where I have no, you know what I'm saying? I have no you know, with people that they call me Christian, follower of Jesus, you know what I'm saying? Like the prophets that came before because Abraham was a prophet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how we're the in the Muslim community, like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon
Yeah.
him. You know what I'm saying? Like people like when it's like the saying la ilaha, right? I mean, there is no God but God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like where for me, I guess because I didn't connect with humans, you know what I'm saying? For me, I was forced to go straight to the source. So
Yeah.
I feel like here on earth, we don't know God's name.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, we have the Bible, yes. But for me, when I first started reading the Bible, right, I wasn't reading it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I was like, well, man wrote this. But not
Yeah.
knowing that it's
Yeah.
inspired by man, because there's been things that I've written where I'm like, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I try to put myself in the shoes, but I also look at the fact that where how Christianity came about, the Crusades, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And those different times, you know what I'm saying? I'm just going through, I guess for me, like sometimes I critically think on the history of something, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when I think about, I'm like, okay, so, cause it was either, hey, become a Christian or die.
Yeah.
Now that's some crazy faith right there, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
I'm glad that we live in America where we got the freedoms,
Yeah.
you know? But like, and then I think about what kind of person, well, who, what was the demographics of that person that was doing that at that time, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's European, it's of a certain type of a certain culture. So it's like, then this is where the psychology part comes into like life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How where while racism may not exist, but the systematic racism is there. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like for me, it's like where you may hear like, oh, it's this white man's religion, this and that. And I had heard a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, you know, I'm gonna read the book myself. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? God is our best teacher, but we are our best teachers if you have the mindset
Yeah.
to go and pursue something like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody could teach me how to play basketball if I'm not getting a basketball. Nobody can teach you how to run. They can
Yeah.
show you the steps, they can show you, train you and all that, right? But until you take your own feet, that's how
Yeah.
we learn how to
Bro, you know what? Okay, so you bring up a great point. I think that like even like for sports, you see a bunch of people play a certain sport and you just automatically assume that, oh, I got to be like that to play that sport, you know? And it's kind of
yeah.
like that, you know? You see a bunch of Asians playing soccer, you're like, oh, okay, I got to be Asian to play soccer. But that's not the fact. The fact is that anybody could play soccer, you know? You
Yeah.
just got to get in there and start doing it, and you got to know that, you know, how to play it, you know? And
Mhm.
so what we get caught up in is the systematic uh, portrayal of how life is, and we're not living the real life, because I used to
Mhm.
think that way too, and I was so blinded, bro.
Right.
I
Me
used to think
too.
that way too. I used to think that I because of my race or my ethnic, I couldn't believe in God, you know? I used to
Mhm.
thought that for the longest time as a kid growing up.
Mhm.
So that already threw God out the window for me, like, whoa, you know, like I can't even be in that category, that realm, because I'm not even, I'm of a different color. I won't be accepted, you know. So I
Mhm.
never, it wasn't even like, oh, I'll give it a try. You know, it's like automatic out. I just have to
Mhm.
be this. I have to be in my culture, because systematically I thought that that was the right thing to do, and until I came into TC and
Mhm.
going back, don't you think that's a crazy way to think?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and that's why I never really got into the Bible boat, because I thought that, you know what, I'm already automatically cross off that list
Right.
already.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't able to be in. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
so I'm
saying?
like, man, what? I'm already like, I'm not even on it, so why even bother? You know, why even
Mhm.
learn it? Why even? Those are just people, mythical people telling about miracles and stuff. That's not even me, because I'm not even gonna get in it. You know,
Right.
and so why should I even try it?
Mhm.
And and so if you're with a certain, like, if a bunch of agents are playing soccer, right, and they come tell you to play soccer with them, you look at them and you're like, no, I don't wanna look like you. I can't play. Back then, me growing up, the people that were playing soccer or believe in God, they were all of Caucasian descent, you know, look. So when they came and asked me, hey, you know what, reach out to God, he'll help you. I'm like, I can't play on that team. I'm
Yeah.
not even white,
You
you
didn't even know how to
know?
receive it.
Yeah,
Like
I can't play on that team, because number one, I look at your team and it's, they, none of them looks like me, you know? And
yeah.
so how can I be on there? And so you look, you don't, you got to see beyond that. And as a kid growing up, number one, I already feel being told I wasn't even doing that. And from what I see, living that superficial life of just looking at whatever I see that, hey, it's just for white people. I'm never going to get into that. And when they come and recruit me, yes, they confirm it by saying, you know what, we are like that. Only white people are coming to recruit me. So,
Mhm.
yes, I automatically, that belief becomes concrete, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so you hear about it, but when you see it and you look and you see more of it, you're like, okay, definitely not for me, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why I never got, you know, that's why it was so hard for me to grasp that idea of being like a believer, being believing in God, because my whole belief from the beginning was that it's not for me. And it got confirmed because through that, through the people that were in that, you know, and all
Mm.
the people that love me, they were of my race, you know. And so I'm like, okay, you know. And then
Uh,
when you start building these beliefs, they become tradition, and tradition becomes like something you would defend with your life, you
yeah,
know.
yo,
And
that
now another
says
person comes, you're like, oh, you can't make fun of my tradition. I'm gonna stand up, and then you will
yeah,
never. Then generations of that just happen over and over again. That beliefs become more concrete. So now, bro, I'm so glad I'm able to break out of that. You know?
exactly. Once you break free from it, bro, it's
Yeah,
so freeing. Like how we I like the part like how he said, it like once you know, like we were blinded, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
The superficial everything. Then we come out and we're like, wait, I'm like, wait, hold on. I can be a Christian? You know what
yeah,
I mean? And like how where I saw this sign is like, I don't know if you've ever seen like the artwork where it's like Jesus saves.
yeah,
And you know what I'm saying? And like I'm not gonna lie, bro, like sometimes like I just stare off into things, right? And I'll stare at it for probably like I stared at this sign for probably like 20 minutes, bro.
yeah,
Like where I'm just mm, that's Jesus. Like seeing how I feel about sitting with
yeah,
it, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I'm like, okay. And then like me, I look around, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
check my environment, you know, and I'm like, everything's on fire. Okay, alrighty. There's no water, no extinguisher, no Jesus saves. Okay, I do know Jesus. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, I don't know a Christian, I don't know a church, I
yeah.
don't know people, but
Okay.
Jesus I know. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, he does save. And then like God, we're going, you know what I'm saying? And like where you know what I'm saying, it's like because Jesus answered to God,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
because people sometimes get caught up on well, Jesus is God. I'm like, no, that's God working through Jesus. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? When people actually start to realize the stories, like when you read them, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. When did you
It's
start this realization of taking everything in for like, you know,
so
ever since you were a kid or?
uh the realization of taking things in as I see them.
Yeah, too.
Doing that, I say that like my analyzing probably started. Mm, I want to say like as early as maybe 9.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, like where I was a very my mind was always going. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
It once like I had to know why. I had to figure out like how things work, or or if I can't figure out how something work, what's the reason behind it?
yeah,
Okay, why does that do that? Why does why does a bird fly the way it flies? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So with me, it's like where now I didn't think to go to the encyclopedia, go to look it up. I was like, I'm gonna just watch the bird.
yeah.
And it's like, what's he doing? He's staring off into the sky. It's like, no, he's doing like when Darwin went to that island and he was studying all the different things.
Right.
He didn't have no book. What did he do? He just watched. And you know what I'm saying? Through that, I feel like God speaks to you and he'll give you answers to the things that you're looking for, you know? And so it's that's been like I don't know, it's just been in me for a while.
Yeah,
It
bro.
just
You know, like for in the Hmong family that I grew up in, that's called being a bad kid, free thinking.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh, that was a thing too, bro. That got me in trouble so
Yeah,
much.
they're like, why
Think for
can't
your
you be
own.
like, why can't you just be like everybody else? Why can't you be uniform like everybody else? Get up,
Yeah.
obey, be quiet. Your opinion doesn't matter. Just go with it. We will decide if when you're happy, what type of, you know. So
Yeah.
that free thinking, although you desire it and you want it, it was never offered on that table, you know.
Yeah,
And
I had to
so,
take it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like where you know what I'm saying like I guess some in some circles they'll call me a rebel, bro. But I had
yeah.
to take
So
it.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's like the the coming of age story of rebel basically in a Hmong
yeah,
culture is that when you don't listen, you're building up that rebel, you know. And it's
yeah,
never growing up to be the person that you are. It's just either you concede to what we're telling you or you grow up to be a rebel, you know.
yeah,
And so when you grow up to be that, the reason why I asked what age or when you started having that kind of thinking is that, was that when you were through being through having dealing with all those, and then you started thinking for yourself, or did you already start that thinking at that at an early age? And were you able to act on those? Were your parents, I don't know, like we touched on it a little bit, but I don't know if you were allowed to even pursue those expressions, you
oh
know,
yeah,
like those free thinking, you know. Because for me, I would tell you that that hurted me so much, because creativity was a big part of my life. Now I know. And when your creativity was getting snubbed, or when a fish is living in a 10-gallon aquarium not allowed to grow. It's frustrating, bro. You know what I mean?
It is.
And so as much as you want to grow, you're like, they can, and after a while you're just like, okay, if I can't do that, screw it, I might as well just be bad. I might as well just take in whatever I can. And that's when
Mhm.
you start taking in all the stuff that's not good for you.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I asked if, when you
Oh,
start thinking free, and were you able to start thinking free will, and thinking like, what, be intrigued by other things besides just worrying about if you're a rebel or not. You know what I mean?
yeah. I guess for me, right? So like because I never thought I was a rebel, and
Yeah.
so my free thinking, right? Since it came at such a young age, it's cost me a lot,
Yeah.
and it's now I can
Yeah,
say
but
it was
bro,
now I can say it was worth it because of this, bro. Like we're so in my community, right? Like where so basically if you don't pay no bills in the household, you know what
yeah,
I'm saying, you eat what's on the table or you don't eat.
right,
You know what I'm saying? The parents' law is final word. That's it.
right,
There's no you go back and forth, you might get popped in the lip. You know what I'm saying?
right,
And it's like where that spare the rod, you know what I'm saying? You spare the kid. Like don't wrong. These things are like it taught me to have manners, to have respect.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was good. I love the way that I was brought up and I was raised because it's built character in me and like especially at how I go
Well,
about
bro, you know
you
what?
know
Okay, so
but my free thinking, what it's cost me though, is what I
okay,
want to
so
get.
I want to like there's a like discipline, dictatorship, and you know, discipline from dictatorship is different.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
but these are all in one. That's
Okay.
the crazy part about it, bro. It's intertwined.
Because I'm not
It's
saying
like
don't discipline a person. You can still discipline a person, but are you controlling every aspect of that person? Are you being North Korean on that
yeah,
person? You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, bro.
And then when the U.S. when the people from the country other countries come, you put on this show and like, hey, you know what? We're good, but
yeah,
yeah, you're living this life that oh, the Korean lifestyle. But when people come and visit, you put up all these like, oh, we're good, nice, and like we have amusement parks and stuff like that. But as
right,
soon as when they leave, you put all that down.
right. Yeah, and you know the crazy part, right? I wonder how do we know that it's actually like that? I mean, I haven't done my research on North
Oh,
Korea,
yeah, North
but
Korea.
yeah, but it's like so it's actually like it's like they're like that because I've heard of people when they like sneak cameras and stuff like that. Their espionage laws are
Yeah,
crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like Americans that go over like some dude was taking a picture of something in some area,
you
just a
kn-
normal picture, but he got
yeah. You know what,
like
bro? I think that we will never know.
gotta ask Dennis Rodman. They let
Yeah.
him over
Oh,
there.
so yeah, we gotta ask him. But I don't
Mm,
even know. All I know is that um, like my parents were growing up, they were raised in that
mm,
environmental of community. What is it?
that
Uh,
environment.
yeah, of dictatorship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like that's
not that the democratic way, but
yeah, no, the
communism.
yeah, 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 communism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where the government provides for everything, but yet the government has say in everything, how you live, how many kids
yeah,
you have, what kind of person you could. So, um, like what kind of friends you have, what person you date or not date, how you should dress or how you should comb, even your hairstyle or who you should hang out with.
yeah.
And I think that when you start doing that, it's not discipline anymore, bro. You start
Right.
controlling that person. And
Yo.
I really didn't like that. And I think that that's why for me now, I still have a hard time being with a lot of Hmong people that are very traditional, because
Mm,
I grew up like that and I didn't like it, you know?
yeah.
And to me, I wanted to set myself free from that. And what the great thing is that when God sets you free from your addiction, He doesn't just set you free from your addiction, He sets you free from
Yeah.
everything else, you know? So all those things that you have all built up, it's like He cuts one and then boom, everything. You're like, oh, what about that? He's like,
Mm,
don't worry about that. He watch this, and He just swipes this, and then everything just kind of falls in place.
yeah.
That's what I like about being saved, is that, you know, and that puts addiction into perspective too, how small it is what God can do.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like
Yeah,
how where it's just like
we can't handle this, but yeah, God comes in, He's just like boom, He's like, that's all you have? Tell me
right.
there's more. And then He just takes that away, and then everything else goes with that. And you're like, wow, I've been dealing that with my whole life, I couldn't get over it. That
Yeah.
shows not just what we're dealing with as far as God goes, but His power too,
Yeah.
that how much we can't handle
For
what God
real.
has, because that little part of our life we can't even handle, he comes and he takes it away. Imagine if he gives us the full throttle of his power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm trying to experience that, like that full on where it's like where
Oh,
to
bro,
to
we can't
become
handle
one.
it.
Yeah, I know I'm not ready for it yet, but like
Yeah,
one day, you know what I'm saying, I hope to get, you know what I'm saying, like get closer with God to that
yeah,
level where he's what is he's built me up enough to where he's like, yo, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying, like it's
And bro, that to me, that also shows the gentler side, softer side of him. Because with all that power and all that strength, he
yeah,
is still um so gentle to show us love, and not in a way of like, okay, I love you guys, but in such detail, like the hairs on your head and stuff like that. To
yeah,
love somebody like that, to have that much power, and to also show that kind of nourishment and kindness, that is something that we could even possibly think about, having, and God
yeah,
has it.
he does.
Yeah,
And
and
he gives
so
it out freely too.
so if you pay attention to these little details, you get this, you kind of sense the significance of how God is, you know. But these details, you got to really pay attention to what He's doing in your life to notice these details, bro.
Yeah,
If you don't, you'll miss it. That's how subtle it is. And I think that that's how God is, subtle, but direct. You'll know it, but it'll be subtle to the point where it's not pushing you. If you feel like you're doing something and you feel like you have to put too much effort in it, then that's probably not God. You're just probably doing it too much on your own,
yeah,
because He's gonna give you enough subtle, but He's gonna direct you in the right direction. And that's what I tell a lot of people. They When they ask if they're doing it the God's way, I'm like, are you doing it too much? First, let's go with the extremes. Are you doing too much, or are you doing too little, where you're stuck? And they're like, I'm doing too much. I'm like, now back off.
yeah,
That's probably not God. And if they're like, oh, I'm not doing too little, dude, maybe you're not going in the right direction, because you got to do a little bit more than that, because God, He wants you to work a little bit too. He's a God that wants love too, at the same time wants recognition that you
yeah.
do love Him. And so that's what I tell people. And when you're right in the middle, that's when you know that God's working in your life, and you got to pick up on those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta be
Yeah.
able to pick up on, and I think that like that's what I liked about, you know what I'm saying, having like this time these past like 2 years, you know what I'm saying, to
Yeah.
ourselves and being able to build that relationship with us, because then we're able to become more in tune with them, to pick up when he's giving us the
Right.
signs to, you know, because like where there's constant signs all around us, and like sometimes that can be like system overload for some people, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, to have to, you know, that's why we pray for discernment, so we can discern
Yeah.
between, you know, okay, what's that, what's this and that. And then when you look at, not necessarily just look at something, but sometimes you can feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how we're, it's times where, so I've been in situations where, and this is like after treatment, you know what I'm saying? Like where I'll be in a situation and it feels like I'm back in the darkness, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because I've been once familiar with it, I can tell like when it's around, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I'm
Yep.
like, and then like, you know what I'm saying? Instead of going to fear, my mind goes to God. And it's like where, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he's put me in the dark, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm
Yep.
the light, like, you know what I'm saying? Like in a really humble way. All glory to him. But like how we're like even when I was in Portland House, right? Somebody asked me, they're like, are you just happy all the time? Are
Yeah.
you just happy every day? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, so it's a choice then. It's a choice. He's like, you just choose to be happy. I was like, I do make that choice. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like when I think about like where it comes from, it's nothing on this earth. It's nothing that where I can say that I've done. You know what I'm saying? It's all
Yeah.
God. And I feel like that's like one of the gifts that he's given me
Yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah. That's
'cause-
amazing, bro. I really feel like there's a happiness that we create for ourselves, and there's a God happiness.
yeah,
And you could work a job and make a lot of money, provide for your family, and be happy, but that's different from just being God happy. At the end of the day, you could provide all those stuff, but still be miserable, and still be like force your way through all that stuff and be happy and feel good about yourself. But at the end of the day, are you really God happy? Are you just waking up and being fulfilled without all that necessary stuff? And
yeah,
so for me, when people ask me, "Are you always happy?" I'm like, I'm not always happy, but I'm always God happy, because I have God in my life now. And, there might be some days that I'm not happy myself, but when I look upon God and I see Him working in my life and I know who I'm serving, that's when I'm happy. So there's a difference for me. Right? Before I was just happy. I made, throughout life. I didn't know, but now I see the bigger picture. I know that you got to be God happy too, and that's the most fulfilling one, and
Mhm.
that all goes back to people, standard examples of people up and down. Are you this up and down happy, or are you the constant happy? And I'd
Yeah,
rather be that constant happy. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Like when you just mentioned that, it made me think of like, cause like I mean, and I guess it kind of depends on the day, but some days I guess it's like a roller coaster. But then like when I think about it, right, it's like it's not like straight, right? But imagine if it's you ever seen like the stocks, like
Yeah,
how they go up and down, right? So
yeah,
like imagine like this is a line, right?
yeah,
And then it'll shoot up, right? But then it'll shoot down, but then it'll shoot up, right?
yeah,
But it's still above that line though. So
yeah,
that's like kind of like how I'm experiencing. Like
yeah.
even like one of my lowest, it's not as low. You
Right,
know what I'm
right.
saying? It's like a new standard of a high low.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
kind of something like
Yeah, I
that.
totally get what you're saying. Yeah, it's a new standard now. You don't put yourself
Yeah,
down in there anymore, and you don't have to like jumpstart yourself with, because bro, when you're in addiction, you're always under that line. And in order to even peek past that line, you got
yeah,
to put some sort of substance in you to even jack yourself up like to that line. And
yeah,
so the thing that we don't see is that, with addiction, is that line, every time you got to do twice as much just to get that line higher and higher. And
yeah,
so you're going deeper, but you're trying to push that line higher you know
yeah.
and people don't realize the deeper you go into a hole, the harder it is to throw the rope up. At the
Exactly,
beginning you could just toss it and be able to climb your. But the deeper you go this way, the harder it is to throw that line back out. That's what people
yeah.
don't realize, bro.
And imagine like, bro, like if you didn't, if like you got so deep, right? There's, but like, okay, so like imagine there's everybody watching you go in this hole, right? Nobody's coming to throw a rope down for you, right?
Yeah,
You keep throwing it up, they keep kicking it back down. They just
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And then it gets to a point to where you can't even throw the rope up anymore, right? So
yeah,
now you're in this hole and you literally have to climb tooth and nail, you know what I'm saying, out of it, right? And you make it out of it because God gave you that strength to climb out of that. You'll never go back in that hole again.
yeah,
They can't put you back in that box. You
yeah,
just won't go because like we're what I'm saying, God, he's like, all right, you got yourself in that hole. Nah. And he's talking to you, he's cheering you on the whole way.
yeah,
He's like, come on, all right, start climbing. You see, they
yeah,
keep pushing it, the putting the rope back down. See, they're not pulling it back up. You got you, but I'm here with you. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, bro. Don't you feel like sometimes when you're in that hole and there's people there and they're even not even encouraging you to do any of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you feel so hopeless, when you're stuck in there. And I feel like, you know in our lives we've been in that hole. But it's so discouraging when you don't have anybody to say, you know what, even to tell you you can start digging and maybe you'll make it. When people just tell you, you know what, you're never going to make it, you're going to be there for the rest of your life. You know how difficult that is when you're already down there, bro.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is when you're already in that hole and people don't even encourage you to do something, and they're just expecting you to find your way out. you
Mm-hmm.
know
That's
and so
man.
when
I
you're behind the 8 ball already, and people are, you know stuff, and they're not even encouraging you or